Okay, we have our ingredients ready to go, okay? We need 3 teaspoons of yeast. The bread machine, I am using Fleischmann's bread machine yeast or rapid rise yeast, okay? You don't want to use regular yeast in a bread machine, all right? Because regular yeast would take longer to raise and you only have so many minutes of raising time, especially since this is winter, okay? It's only 3 degrees outside Fahrenheit right now. Other parts of the state up north are -3 and -6. Now check your machine. My machine calls for the dry ingredients first, liquids on top of the flour. Your machine may call for wet ingredients first, and then you make a well. After you add on the dry ingredients, you make a well and add the yeast on top of that. So read your bread machine. And we are using our DAC bread machine. We will be using that, our Turbo Baker too. So any bread machine works for this as long as you know that the container is large enough to handle that size of a loaf. If not, you may have to figure out how to cut this recipe down, maybe even close to 2/3 of what we're putting in here, okay? So once you have your bread machine figured out, or do what I do when in Rome, right? Do as the Romans do. Go back to the ancient way of making bread, okay? And just put it through the hand mixer or a wooden spoon and make this up quickly by hand. Either way works with this. You do not have to have a bread machine. All right, so 3 teaspoons of yeast, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of sugar. Now if you want, you don't have to use the honey and you don't have to use the brown sugar. If you get rid of the tablespoon of each of these sugars, then you can add it back into here and you can just use 1 level 1/4 cup of sugar. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of softened butter, and I've showed you this before. When you press into it, it's just room temperature softness. You'll need 2 whole eggs, that's 2 whole eggs, and you will need to whisk that, and you will need to beat that. Now, since we're making challah bread, okay, challah bread, there, I said it the best time that time, then you want to make sure that there is no blood spot in the egg. And you want to crack these eggs individually in separate containers, then add them in here. Because if you're going to make true kosher challah bread, okay, then you cannot have a blood spot. Because in the Jewish tradition, you cannot eat blood of the animal. All right, so it's rare that I ever get a blood spot. Perfectly normal when they're in there. But if you're Jewish, you cannot have that blood spot. And the blood spot cannot touch any of the other food. And if it does, you got to throw it all out. So remember, we're doing the traditional challah bread here. So let's keep this braided bread. Let's keep these breads, let's keep them traditional. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right? So we're going to beat the egg well. 3½ cups of all-purpose white flour or bread flour, or you can mix the two together. That's fine. If you want to make this a wheat bread, you can take about ½ cup of this white flour out and add in a wheat flour to this, okay? That is fine. If you want to add a little bit more nutrition to this, that is fine. Milk. This particular recipe calls for milk, and I'm using a sweet whole milk. This is also lactose free because I have to be lactose free. And this is sitting at about 104 degrees. That's perfect. We want to be between 98 and 110. And I try to get below that 110. I do not want to kill my yeast. So 105, 108, that's perfect for how cold it is outside. All right? Be sure and use that thermometer. This is challah bread, so we're going to need our charity jar. If we're going to do this right, we got to do our charity jar, and we need a coin to put inside of our charity jar. And here I just used the ball jelly jar. That's all I use. And there's no reason to buy a jar when you can do it, okay? And I'm just going to hold my coin here so I don't bake it in the bread by accident, okay? Now there's a point at each point when we're making our bread that we have to do different prayer steps and the charity step. Now when we get there, we're going to discuss that, okay? Now coming up, when we start doing the larger braid breads, then I've got to do almost an 8 loaf size pan of bread. And that makes so much bread, John and I cannot eat that much bread. And by the way, challah bread makes great French toast the next day. Okay, great French toast. If you braid it so that it's thicker, or that you lay them on top of each other so they're thicker. Okay, if they're more spread out, then they're just a pull apart bread. Okay, so it depends on the type of braid. Yes, there's different ways to braid these. So I only showed you one method of braiding a 4 braid bread. There are other methods. I showed you the easiest one to remember. Let's put it that way. That's what I'm doing here. I'm showing you the easiest way to remember it so I can get you to try it. All right, we're going to go ahead and open up our yeast. And we're going to add our 3 teaspoons of yeast right here on the outside. There we go. We're going to add our sugar, a tablespoon of brown sugar, a teaspoon of salt. We're going to go ahead and add in our honey towards the center here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add our 2 beaten eggs. Slice up and kind of break up our butter. Add our flour. And we're going to add in our milk, our warm milk. Perfect. And put the lid down. And we're going to put this on manual. So I'm going to select it. Need manual white bread, manual sweet bread, and start. Now let's see how it's looking here. It's going to be somewhat sticky on this one. Keep your lid down so we keep that heat in. And then we're going to cover this with a warm cloth until it's done doing its first main rising, okay? So we'll see you back here in about an hour. Looks good. All right, you can see here that our dough is almost done rising. Another 5-10 minutes, it will be done. All right, now here we've just separated an egg. Here's the whites, here's the yolk. And I added about a tablespoon of water to 1 yolk, and we've whisked that up. All right, now we're just gonna take and set that aside. Here I have a used piece of foil, so we can throw our first piece of bread dough into the oven to let it burn. That is challah tradition, Jewish tradition when they make it. But meanwhile, I'm just using it to cover up my egg yolk. Pastry brush to brush on the egg yolk. We're going to set that aside. We have our charity jar and our coin ready to put in. All right, ready to put in there. It's a new coin, by the way. It's the first time I've seen that one. And then we can use our egg white. Now you can do an egg white brush, you can do a whole egg brush, or you can do a yolk brush. It doesn't matter. The yolk gives it a little bit more of color. You've seen me do either or. Just be sure and add a little bit of water and whisk it well. Okay, meanwhile we have our breadboard and we're going to put flour out on it and prepare it and get it ready. Everything ready. Now I could spend all day showing you how to shape bread. It sounds like from my request I might be doing that. So so today we're just going to teach you how to do the 5 braid. And there's actually 2 techniques that I know of for this. There might be others out there, but this is the 2 techniques that I've used in the past. Be sure and hit that subscribe button because we have other breads and other wonderful recipes for you to search through, and plus all the canning and all the jam making and all the building and all the construction and the gardening and the seed saving. We have a lot going on here on our little homestead. So be sure and subscribe. Hit that bell next to the subscribe button, because if you're not receiving my post or my video uploads, it's because YouTube changed things and made you have to hit that little bell next to our name now. So every time you hit on one of my videos, just go down, hit that bell. You only have to hit it once on one video, and then you'll start getting our updates, okay? That's just a reminder, and I'm gonna have to slip it in here in the next few videos because I probably even ought to do a video on it, but, and we'll be right back when we're ready to work this out. Okay, so we're just going to turn this out onto our board, to our breadboard, making sure we get it all. My machine started to run, so it actually collapsed it for me, but that's fine. So we only want to do one proofing, one raising. Make sure you get your paddle out if you're using the bread machine. Okay, now we're going to take, we got a little bit of flour here, and we're just going to coat it with just a little bit of flour, just a little bit. And then I'm going to toss this in the flour. All right, do just a little bit of kneading, just a little bit, not much. There we go. And I'm going to roll this out into a log. This is so easily to work with. Kind of squeeze this together here. There we go. Okay, what we're going to do here now, this is a nice soft dough. A little bit of flour on our knife kind of helps here a little bit. You can use a dough cutter, what have you. But we need it, and you can weigh these out too if you want to. I don't find it necessary. But we're going to cut this into 5 even pieces. So 1, 2, 3, that's not quite right. All right, so right here be 1, here will be 1, and there. All right, there we go. This is a really nice soft dough, as you can see. And then we're just going to take and separate them. See how they feel. Looks good. All right, so what we're going to do next, and I'm going to bring you from my point of view when we do the plating or when we braid it. These are going to be called plaits. Once we get them rolled out and tapered, they're called plaits. P-L-A-I-T. Okay, plate. So, and then we're going to have a section of plaits. Now we need to remember this when we're braiding multiple braids. It's going to be very important. Taking these into balls, we're going to take off 1 pinch of this, roll it into foil, throw it in the oven, and let it burn. That's a Jewish tradition. I'm going to take here, I just want a little bit of flour. I don't want a lot. Not a lot. And I'm just going to take my bread here. I'm going to kind of roll it and kind of squeeze it out. It's a soft bread, trust me. It doesn't take much to get it to roll down. Kind of taper the ends, just like that right there. All right, come on. These are already rising again. Look at them. Need a little bit more flour in these. I want them to be kind of even there. There we go. I got to get these long enough. They need to be about, I'd say 16 to 18 inches long. You want a fatter bread, make them a little stubbier. That's fine. All right. Now when we get them here, we're going to need to make them all even lengths. We're just going to cover them up just like that right there. Matter of fact, I need to cover them all up. There we go. Just kind of squeeze and roll. Squeeze and roll. There we go. Kind of work them out. Tapering those ends. Matter of fact, I've kind of got where I do the noodle, so. There we go. About the same. Right there, tapering those ends. Same thing here. Keep working them. Hubby's just home from the grocery store, so if you hear any sacks in the background, that's what that is. We're going to set them over here and we're going to let them rest for about 3 to 4 minutes. Meanwhile, we're going to take this, we're going to put a little bit of flour on it like this, and then we're going to knock the rest of the flour off the board. You can do your directly on a towel or on the countertop if you like. Okay, we're just going to cover them up and let them rest for about 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to let that dough relax a little bit again. We're going to add our quarter to our charity jar at this point to show that we are thankful that our bread rose and that we want to fill this up and help others as we've been blessed by the Lord. Okay, here we just have a cookie sheet with a piece of parchment paper that I have lightly sprayed and rubbed the oil on with my hand, and I do mean lightly. And I've got that prepared and set aside. Now here we have our 5 plates. All right, now I'm going to set the camera up so that you can see this from my point of view, and we'll be right back. All right, and again, I've just put the camera on me as a body camera, so if I'm moving around a little bit too much, I'm trying to be as still as I can. I want you to see this from my point of view. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plates, or 5 strings of dough. That's 5 plates of dough. Now with a 5 plate, we're going to start up here at the top, and we are going to connect all 5 pieces of dough. If you need to, brush a little bit of water on here. Just a little bit of water should hold all that together. Just kind of pinch it here, little tuck. There we go. All right, the first method I'm going to show you, you want to put 3 on your right and 2 on your left. You're going to take the one on the outside, you're going to lift it over, and you're going to sit it with these 3. Tucking here at the top just a little bit. Bring these 2 kind of over. Now we're going to take this outside one here, and we're just going to lightly tuck it. Remember, it's still in its raising stage. And we're going to slightly bring it over here. So now we have 2 and 3 again. Take the outside of the 3. Bring it into the outside of the inside of the 2, excuse me, the inside of the 2. So the outside of 3 to the inside of the 2. The outside of the 3 to the inside of the 2. The outside of the 3 to the inside of the 2. The outside of the 3 to the inside of the 2. Outside of the 3, inside the 2, outside the 3 to the inside of the 2. Outside the 3 and the inside the 2, and etc. And you can see this beautiful shape of braid that we're getting. And we'll finish off the ends the same way as we did the other ones, okay? We can kind of rebraid this and make it look nice, okay? And this is the shape that you basically get right here. As you can see, this is a beautiful braid, okay? Just beautiful. But now I'm going to show you how to do another version of the 5 braid bread. Now pay attention, this one is a little more difficult, but boy, it is beautiful after it's been baked. They're both beautiful. So now I'm going to take, and I've got to unravel this one, and I'll be right back. Okay. Now this one requires 5 braids again. Pinch them together at the top, just like this. Then we're going to take the far right and just lay it across just like this. Just like that. I need to kind of pinch that together. It's kind of tore on me a little bit. Okay, just like that. Take this outside, and we're going to lay it across just like that right there. Now we need to take one of these and bring it back down here into the center. So we're going to take this one, cross over this one, and we're going to bring it down to the center. Then we're going to take the outside of this one, and we're going to put it up. Then we're going to take this one, bring it down to the center. Then we're going to take the left outside and bring it across. We're going to bring this down into the center. Then we're going to bring this one across. Okay, then we're going to bring this one down into the center. And we'll bring this one across. We'll bring this one down into the center. And we'll bring this one across. Okay, we'll bring this down into the center. And we'll bring this one across. Bring this one down into the center. And we'll bring this one across. Down into the center. We'll bring this one across. Oops, I'm stretching this one. Down to the center. bringing this one across, down to the center, and bringing this one, oops, and bringing this one across. Oops, what did I do wrong here? Hang on. This one to the center, and then this one across to replace it. Okay? And then we're just going to take now and we're going to finish out this bottom edge. This one goes like this. This one will go like that. Like that. You can always pinch off the end, that's fine. And we'll just kind of bring it in and give it a tuck. Right, and there is that 6 braid braid. Let me give it a turn. And I like to break my ends apart. And we're going to fix the ends just like we did a minute ago. Just like we did on that last braid of braid. By bringing this down, this one over, this one down, and this one over, okay? And then we'll just kind of braid them in here. Give them a tuck if you have to. Brush with a little bit of water. And get them to tuck in nicely. Okay? Alright, that is my other method for 5 braid braid. And again, I showed you, a real Jewish woman showed me this. Now this one, I like this route because this one will get taller than the other braid, and this is great for slicing and using for sandwich bread when they're taller other than wider. All right. There's a spot here that I feel that needs a little bit more water here to kind of smooth that out. I'll do that, kind of smooth it up a little bit. Right. Now we're going to take and we're going to pull this over here. Here's our piece of dough that we can use for burning in the oven. We'll just take that piece of dough, we'll wrap it up in foil, and we'll just toss this into the oven. Meanwhile, we'll just take a hold of our bread just like this, and we'll slip it right over here onto the cookie sheet. And this may require you to put this on the cookie sheet at an angle so that it will fit. All right, now I'm just going to put my 5 braid bread into the oven at about 98 degrees, and I'm going to let this raise covered with a cloth, and again it'll go corner to corner, so that's fine. And we'll put this in the oven. I just turned on the heat, turned the heat back off again, gave me a nice warm place to raise my bread, especially since it's only 3 degrees outside or less right now. That's Fahrenheit. I'm just going to put this in that warm oven. Oh, it is the perfect temperature in there right now. It says that it's 98 degrees. So 98 degree oven right now. Perfect. And we'll see you back here in about 30 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm going to take that little piece of extra dough that we pinched off here, and I'm going to show you how to make a bird. All right, how to make a bird. Now, of course, you're going to use more dough than this, but this is what I pinched off. You're going to tie a knot. Just a gentle knot. Kind of push it through just like that right there. There we go. Give it a little bit of a tug. That's fine. Pinch off the face. Make a beak. You can even use a piece of a wedge of like a almond or something. Flatten the tail out with your thumb and finger just like that right there. Okay. I want my beak to be a little bit bigger than that. There we go. Just take a pair of scissors like this and cut a couple of cuts into the tail just like that, making about 4 little tail feathers there. Separate them a bit, just like that. So we've just taken and we've tied our dough into a knot. And we've taken and made a few cuts for the tail feathers, shaped the head, made a little beak there. Can you see the little beak there? Oh, this smells good. Now I've just got a couple of cloves here, small cloves.
That one's a little big. Let me find a couple of cloves here that work. Okay, here's one. We don't want it to go through. And we're just going to put some cloves in here for eyes. Just like that right there. Way through. Here's another little one with a small. There we go. And again, I'm going to reshape that beak. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? And then we're going to let that rise for about 15 minutes. And then we're going to bake our little birds. So, and that's how you make bird rolls. Now, of course, you can make these much bigger. And then, of course, they can suck on the cloves to freshen their breath after dinner. And that's what's nice about these. And these are absolutely stunning after they've raised up and their little tail feathers have separated. They're just absolutely beautiful. I kind of like set them up like that right there when I bake them. Okay? And we'll be right back. I'll bake that little bird and show you how it's going to look. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with bread dough. And the kids, they love doing this kind of thing. Okay, we've got our yolk and water wash here. Just pre-mix it up and put it in the refrigerator. That's fine. It might need a little bit more whisking again. There's our bread. And there's our little birdie. Don't want to touch him right now, but there's our birdie. Now we're going to brush everything with a little bit of egg yolk, including our little bird. Okay, and we're going to take and we're going to brush our bread as well. It's going to give it some great color by using the egg yolk. It'll make it look like I cooked it a little bit longer, like it got a little darker, but it'll have a nice dark shine to it. It'll be really pretty. And it will not be overdone. It'll have a nice crust. All right. I'll get this all brushed on here and we'll be right back. And remember to be gentle with doing it. We don't want to deflate our bread. Isn't that beautiful? Now right here I made one mistake right here. I'm not quite sure what I did, but I did make a little mistake, but that's fine. All right. Now we're going to slip this. We're going to change our oven temperature to 360 degrees. Some people go all the way up to 375. I do not go that high. I have a convection oven, so I drop it a few degrees. So 360 degrees works for me. And this little bird, it's going to get done before everything else here gets done. We're just going to cover this back up, and we'll be right back as soon as our oven temperature reaches 360 degrees. We're going to slide this back in the oven for about 30 to 35 minutes or until done. We'll be right back. Okay, so I accidentally dropped my camera on my bread and I deflated it from here down. So it's going to look kind of funny when it comes out. So we've got it at 360 and we'll let it go now. Oh, don't you hate when you do something like that after all your hard work? Oh, right, halfway through, we're going to give the bread a turn. All right, looks really great. And we're going to do this quickly. You can see where I deflated that end. Kind of puffed back up. Isn't that beautiful? Our bird is almost done, and being in that back corner, it'll get done even quicker, so we're going to have to keep an eye on it. Okay, my bird is out of the oven. Isn't that beautiful? His little beak and his little clove eyes and his little fan tail. Now, of course, you'd make these larger than when I made this one, but this is a great child size one. And of course, before you'd give to a child, you'd take the cloves out. But isn't that beautiful? And you can just brush this with butter and shine that back up. But that egg wash really gives some beautiful color to this bread. All right, so you can work these up in individual rolls, just like these birds here. I just call them my knotted birds. Okay, and it's challah bread as well. And then in about 4 more minutes, we're going to be taking out our challah braid, our 5 braid challah bread, and we'll be right back. Okay, let's go ahead and take out our challah bread. And there you go. And this is the end that I accidentally dropped the camera on and deflated, and it turned out just fine. But look at that beautiful, beautiful braided bread. Isn't that gorgeous? Too big to even fit into the camera. All right, so what we're going to do
this up by the paper.
Isn't that stunning? Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? And this is a 5 braid challah braid, okay? Just beautiful. And like I said, I accidentally dropped the camera about right here, and when I did, I deflated almost that entire end. It did come back, but it's not near as big as this end here. And you can see where it deflated almost to right here. But that egg wash, that egg yolk wash on here, gives it a nice deep color and gives it a nice crust. This braid, of course, raises it a little bit taller, the way that I showed you how to braid it. And when you slice it this way, it makes a great French toast or just a sandwich bread. So if you want to try this for your Sabbath or for any day of the week, then now you know about the Jewish tradition behind challah bread, okay? And again, you can make these little birds as well. No need to brush this with butter. If you want to, you can. You can see it's still very nice and color and shiny. That egg wash, that egg yolk with just about a tablespoon of water in it, whisked really well, brushed on this, just looks beautiful, okay? And those birds, who wouldn't want a little bird like that on their dinner plate? Little kids love this kind of thing. That's just 2 ways to braid challah bread with 5 plates, 5 rows. And then 1 way to do a small knot. And again, if I were to actually do all my bread this way, the birds would have been bigger. Okay? But again, great for child size, right here. Great for child size little birds. Something you can do at Easter. Great idea, okay? All right, we love you. Be sure and hit that subscribe button. Be sure and stick along with us for the ride because we have a lot more coming up. We're also going to do a 6 braid, a 7 braid, an 8 braid, and we're also going to teach you some different methods of each of those braidings. Whether you want a loft style bread for sandwich breads or whether you want more of a braided flat look where you actually see the braids coming across almost like that other 4 braid that I just showed you. All right, a lot of ways to do this. We're going to be covering them right here on our little homestead, along with learning tradition as well. All right, look at that. It's just absolutely stunning. This is the 5 braid. Stay tuned. Blessings.